Steve Thurman here at the 2026 Bitcoin Cash Conference in beautiful Ljubljana, Slovenia. I have the esteemed pleasure of having one Mark Edge of Free Talk Live with us today. Mark is arguably the most OG person at this conference today. Could be one or two others, but we're not sure. But I know Mark has been in this space certainly longer than I have, and most people at this conference. So we're going to try to get a little bit of an inside scoop, if you will, maybe some hidden stories and information on the history of Bitcoin and specific characters involved. One of those being Roger Ver, which, as I understand, is not only a personal friend of yours, but somebody you've known for quite a while. A common misconception, especially from a lot of BTC maxis, is that Roger created Bitcoin Cash, which he absolutely did not. He was merely a champion of Bitcoin Cash during and after the block size war, because he was a big blocker at the end of the day. But aside from that, Roger arguably single-handedly has been responsible for onboarding more people the world over to Bitcoin in general. I'd say that's, whether you love him or hate him, that's an undeniable fact. Well, this is the individual here, Mark, that actually introduced Roger to Bitcoin in the first place. So if you can, share a little bit of an inside story and information on that history, if you would.
Yeah, I love telling this story. It's a lot of fun. On December the 28th in 2010, a caller called into my radio program, Free Talk Live. And you can find it. It's on podcast and all that, freetalklive.com. And on that date, a man named Jeremy West, he'd called in before. I knew who he was. I met him one day. He actually came from Australia, where he was calling in at that time, to Keene, New Hampshire, and hung out with us. I think that was before cryptocurrency, but I can't remember for sure. And he called in about Bitcoin. He said, hey, I know you guys are really into alternative currencies, gold and silver, things like that. And I wanted to tell you about this, magic internet money that is out there. And he, we talked about it for about 10 minutes. The clips, you can just look, first mention of Bitcoin, and you'll probably find it. It's, I know, yellow and black. It's a radio show, so there's not a lot of video, And so when we talked about it, a man who was part of our little Mouseketeer club, the Amplifiers, his name's Gavin Andreessen. He was the second head developer behind Satoshi Nakamoto of Bitcoin. So Satoshi Nakamoto handed the red keys over to the QT wallet to Gavin Andreessen and then kind of disappeared. And I think at the time Satoshi hadn't disappeared, but that Gavin had sort of taken the reins. Either way, he came up from his home in Massachusetts to hang out with us in Keene, New Hampshire. He had heard the show and he wanted to clear up some things. It took a little while. A lot of our listeners don't listen like the day of the podcast. They're not waiting at 11:30 p.m. when the podcast comes out to consume the next 3 hours and that sort of thing. So it took him a few days to get to it, and then he sent us an email, and it took us a few days to plan that. I know it was a weekday, and we met at the Thai Garden on Main Street in Keene, New Hampshire. Now, Gavin later claims that this is the most lucrative meeting of his life, because his claim is that Free Talk Live is the first stage in a multi-stage rocket that shot Bitcoin into the stratosphere. And there were no other coins at this point, to my knowledge. Charlie Lee hadn't created Litecoin and, all that. And so we met, my business partner, Ian Freeman, and I. My business partner's sitting in prison right now for selling Bitcoin in the United States. freeiannow.org. That's freeiannow.org. Go sign the petition, please. And we were sitting there at the table, and Gavin sort of explained to us how a currency can be backed by math instead of by gold, because we were very much, the sort of precious metal thinkers at the time. And pretty quickly we figured it out, and I know it was about a 3-hour lunch, and so it wasn't super fast, but there wasn't a lot of arguing. In that meal, Free Talk Live became the first ad venue in the world to accept Bitcoin for ads. I offered to Gavin to sell some podcast ads in Bitcoin to him. And also Gavin Andreessen, the head developer of Bitcoin at the time, made his first purchase, I'm not going to say transaction, but purchase of Bitcoin by I ran my credit card and he sent me some Bitcoin, 46 of them, I believe. It was worth 27 cents at the time. Now it's 80,000 or something today. And, sent that to us. And effectively, we became the champions of Bitcoin that day. So the meeting was effective. It was worth driving up to meet with us. To
say the least.
Yeah. So then we went back to the studio. It was late enough that I didn't even go home. We started the show at 7 p.m. and I just did the show that day. And we talked, of course, about our day to some extent, talking about Bitcoin. Roger Ver heard that show. This was about January 20. I'd have to look it up to tell you exactly what.
So
January 20.
About a month after your introduction.
Yeah, a little less than a month. Yeah. So January 20, 2011. Roger heard that show. He basically flew into a manic spiral for 3 days and just consumed everything he could about Bitcoin. And by the time he was done, he was of the opinion that his entire life changed. He'd drank the Kool-Aid, as it were, and he decided, this is important to us. Now, it's important to note that Roger Ver was also a advertiser of Free Talk Live at the time. His business, Memory Dealers, sold optical transceivers. I don't know what an optical transceiver is, but we certainly advertised them. And more or less, he was an angel for the show. He believed in our philosophy, and he wanted us to sort of explain these things to people. So, he gave us a little bit of money. That was great. And then over time, more or less, Roger's like, I don't want you to talk about Memory Dealers anymore. I want you to talk about Bitcoin. Use my time to talk about Bitcoin. And that was an easy thing to do. We were excited. We were on board. Buy Bitcoin. And I remember back in the early days, we could talk about Bitcoin and watch the price go up, because it was low enough. At that point, it had gone from $0, infinity zero, to $30 or so, and then back down to $1. I can't tell you where we were in the process, other than to say it on January 20th, it was about 27 cents. And we then, when Roger heard about it, and I can't tell you where the other people who heard about it, but one of the head developers of Ethereum, Anthony Diorio, he heard about it. I think another Ethereum guy. Someone has told me Vitalik Butrin's dad, heard about Bitcoin on a libertarian podcast and then told his son about it.
It's got to be you guys.
Yeah, it could be. It seems like it. And the fundamental thing is in many ways we're the seed that kind of all of it sprouted out of. And I like Gavin Andreessen's explanation, because we can't A/B test where Bitcoin would be without Free Talk Live. But the first stage in a multi-stage rocket, and I'd say it's not like 3 stages, it's more like 300 stages.
You got to get the thing off the ground.
Yeah, I think we got it off the ground. I don't know where, but the rocket took it to where it was supposed to go. And yeah, so Free Talk Live, it was a really exciting time. I love thinking about it, and I think it's we were pivotal within the creation of cryptocurrency.
That's incredible. So you've maintained a relationship with Roger through the years because of this.
Sure.
Can you share any insight? Most people in the community now know what happened to Roger, what he went through in Mallorca, and I find it awfully coincidental that they nabbed him within a month of the statute of limitations and about 3 weeks of his book, Hijacking Bitcoin, coming out.
All very suspicious.
Yep, all very suspicious indeed. That's neither here nor there. So we know what happened. Can you share a little bit of inside information, as much as you possibly can, maybe, because I know you still have communication lines there with Roger. How's he doing? Where is he? What is he doing? What's the current situation post the agreement with the IRS?
Right. So one thing is very important. Roger has a gag order. Right. So nothing that I'm saying am I saying on behalf of Roger Ver. The things that I'm saying are my experiences, and I'm relaying my experiences. I do not have a gag order. So I'm going to try to say it in such a way to be clear, but there was a moment in time when, for whatever reason, the New York Times called Roger and it's like, hey, can you give a statement? And a very important part of his settlement, his $48 million settlement, is that he not speak to the press. So what he said to the press was, I can't speak to the press.
For how long was that?
I believe it's a 2-year gag order. And they printed something to the effect of, I'd love to talk to you, but I cannot speak to you, and right? Which is, not much nicer than saying, no comment, you schlub, right? Like, which I guess would have been fine, whatever. But as I understand it, some agent for the government took him saying, I'd love to talk to you, but I cannot talk to you, as a violation of the gag order. So he has a gag order on the gag order.
An inception level of gag orders.
Right. And obviously that's ridiculous. And fortunately it didn't turn into anything more. But when you have that level of scrutiny, and clearly the counterparty is not acting, like they want to, abide by a deal, you are going to be extra careful. So I think this is the right thing to do. What he has not said this to me, but what it looks like to me is Roger's going to keep his mouth shut and not do anything that looks like an interview for basically the 2 years that he has the gag order. And again, if it's 3 years and I'm mistaken, then that's my mistake, not his. It's not the kind of thing we talk about when we talk. And we talk, but at this point, I really haven't had very many conversations with him that go deeper than, how's your family? And when's the last time you got to see your kids, and, those kind of things. And where in the world is Roger Ver? And, he wanted to tell me where he was, but I said, basically, don't tell me unless I can repeat it, because it's going to get out wherever he is, and I don't want to be the one that he thinks, oh, well, it's got to be Mark.
You're a journalist at the end of the day, and you said,
yeah.
I've got nothing to hide.
And so we came up with the statement that I would give, which is, I'm 90% sure he's in the Northern Hemisphere. And, all the best to him. But I think he's well. Everything I see is that he's a man who's passionate about his beliefs, who is currently under a gag order. The gag order itself is a form of punishment.
Indeed. Now, at one point, he was a huge champion for Bitcoin Cash.
Yep.
And largely planted seeds all around the world. Some communities that are still very thriving with Bitcoin Cash. As of late, and maybe due to everything that happened in the last couple of years, it seems like he doesn't seem to be espousing for it as much. Or do you have any insight there on his position with Bitcoin Cash or the community in general?
Right. He's very much pushing a coin right now called Zano. And what I would say is that Zano is from all I can tell, is a very private coin, and it has privacy by default. Bitcoin Cash has Cash Fusion, which is privacy in an opt-in fashion. And in my opinion, that we're seeing the industry move towards a privacy sector. And I think that is a good thing. I do think that there is a challenge for businesses, small and digital and these sorts of things, in doing an accounting when you're dealing with private transactions. But so maybe a opt-in or opt-out coin might be the best choice. I can't say one way or the other. If you would have asked me in 2011 what was going to happen with the industry, I have a really great quote from back then, which is, if a Bitcoin is worth $1, meaning you couldn't be cracked and couldn't be destroyed, then it's worth $1 million. If I had to re-edit that statement today, I would say, well, what's the market cap of cryptocurrency divided by 21 million, and then we'll see where my quote is. Somebody's done the calculation while I'm saying it, because we have a bunch of geniuses. There's probably some autist that can do the calculation in his head.
Indeed.
And wherever we're at. It was, I don't know whether I'm not gonna. I'll have a party the day I find out that I was correct. But I am delighted to hear that Bitcoin Cash has a privacy option, and I think that that's important. For me, Bitcoin Cash will always be the first thing that we were really able to set an economy up with in Keene, New Hampshire. So in Keene, New Hampshire, you could, back in the late teens, buy a hamburger, go to the corner news, get a newspaper, get a soda, get your hair cut at Motasua, go to Weeder Automotive and get your car repaired. Some landlords would accept, I mean two, landlords would accept Bitcoin Cash as rent payments and any variety of things, several restaurants. And there were a lot of businesses in Keene that were accepting cryptocurrency. And it was mostly Bitcoin Cash. We were using a POS system, point of sale system called AnyPay at the time. And the Bitcoin Cash guys were giving a cash back. So you could get like 2 or 5% or something like that cash back for every purchase you made. And obviously, everybody wanted to do that. And so, it incentivized the use of these alternative currencies. And effectively, when the feds came in and arrested my business partner, who was at the center of this little cryptoverse, all the businesses were like, "Hey, I don't like that prison idea," and sort of shut down their crypto operations. Some kept going, but it's certainly not what it was.
Got it. If you could talk a little bit about your new venture with Sal the Agorist.
Sure.
If you can, plug your show a bit and just close it out, if you will. Talk about your Bitcoin Cash conference experience thus far. I'm sure this isn't the only conference you've been to. I met you for the first time at the BTC conference in Vegas a few weeks ago. And what are you seeing as a comparative difference between the two? And any message you want to share with our community in general, we'd love to hear it.
Sure. I'll start with the convention here. So the BlissCon, I hadn't heard of, didn't know anything about. Sal mentioned it and said he was going to go, and I had never been to Slovenia, couldn't pronounce Ljubljana, and thought, well, I need to do this. This will be country number 67 or whatever it is, and wanted to add another flag to my little, flag display, and it was exciting. A really cool idea. So I'm like, sure, I'll come. And I, of course, was at Bitcoin 2026. I had gone to Bitcoin 2025. I think there were about 30 to 40,000 people at Bitcoin 2025. It was a huge event. Obviously, with crypto being down a little bit, people aren't as excited. You know how it can be. Bitcoin itself is much more about number go up than it is about, building a community and these sorts of things. So for me, what sort of struck me is this is a convention of 100 people or something. But the 100 people are sitting in the room. If you go up to speak in front of this room, about 100 people will hear what you have to say. Now you compare that to the 3 or 4 stages that were simultaneously happening at Bitcoin 2025, and I'm not trying to down that show. It was awesome. But if you're looking at the side stages, not the main stage, how many people are sitting in the audience for any given person that goes up to speak? And I'd say, 2-3 dozen. Half of them are probably carrying on their own conversations or ticking away on their computers. And you're probably getting as many attentive ears here as you do there. It's a wild thing to say you think about the differences between these two conventions. So I actually think it's pretty cool. And I've met a lot of people here, and you're able to connect. One of my theories in life has always been sort of big cities are the most lonely places on earth, because the young people who move to big cities so that they can meet other young people, don't let them tell you any other reason. They think that they're just having all these options makes it better, but I don't think it does. I think it makes it harder because you have more options. So you're going to chase this, and then you're going to chase that, and then you're going to chase this, and in many ways, a big convention's the same way, because you're, trying to, make a deal with this person and make a deal, and so you don't get a chance to sort of build a relationship and make something really happen. I'm just surprised at what a good value as far as a convention goes this is. And the guys who put this on, Jeremy and the crew, it's beautiful. They have a sparkly carpet. They have, balloons. They have all kinds of stickers. And the experience is festive in a way that I haven't experienced at another convention, and I've been to many, many conventions. Probably the first cryptocurrency event I went to was Bitcoin 2013 in San Jose, California. I was a moderator on the Coinbase panel, and Ian and I sat on the main stage and did our show.
When I say OG, I mean OG.
Right. We got Aaron Schwartz on the show, did an interview with him from Ripple, and Charlie Shrim, and all the big names were there. My Cilium wallet was kicked off at that particular event, and I don't know if
That was my first wallet.
Yeah,
About 2013.
it's a cool name. I love it. I don't know that I've ever used the Mycelium wallet. I'm a Edge wallet guy, but Paul Pui, the guy who was originally Airbits, he claims, he named, to me at least, that he named the Edge wallet after me. So he got the wallet edge.app, and
That's awesome.
I've kept relationships going with him. So as far as how I hooked up with Sal the Agorist, if you go on Twitter, one of them, it's a major account. So it's, I think it's at Sally Mayweather, and he's had the same picture up there for a long time. This rapper guy that he likes, and he was retweeted by Roger Ver. He said, "This is my new favorite Twitter account." Probably back in 2014 or something. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess I have to follow this. And so I followed Sal, and Sal's a meme king. I don't know how else to describe him. Just makes great memes. And then at some point or another, Elon Musk retweeted him, and it was, he's had some traction. So he's got a lot of followers. I think about 250,000 or something. And he's been doing a show on there for some time with a friend of his, and just kind of that was wrapping up, and had run its course, and he's like, I'd like somebody else to do the show with. And at the time I was near him, about an hour and a half away drive, and he knew that. And he called me up and said, "Hey, I want to have a meeting." And so he came down, we went to a restaurant, and he basically said, "I'd like you to be my new co-host." And I said, "Whoa," because I'm retired. But I do like the idea. And I was kind of rolling out my new show, markedge.org. And when he said this, I'm like, how about we do a show or two together? We'll do a probationary period for you, probationary period for me. We'll decide how we are together, see what the chemistry's like, and that kind of thing. And I came up, I did the show, and I just had such fun that first night. I was invigorated in the way that I was invigorated the first time I did Free Talk Live in 2002. And, I'm unmarried, young man. This was exciting to me. And Sal was getting a lot of views on this platform. And, I mean, you can't compare video views to podcast downloads, but even if you did, you're looking at factors. He's getting a lot of views. Currently, we're getting between 50,000 and 500,000 views on a given video, and it's leaning towards 150,000 every single time.
That's impressive.
It's impressive. And we asked X, and X is very clear that you can't just click in and then click out and get counted as a view. You have to stick around for a little while. So since I've been on, and we've done, I guess, 4 episodes as the Sal and Mark show. We did a few episodes before that together, and that was kind of the probationary period. And I'm like, yeah, I love this. Let's do it. And so I would call it a collaboration between Free Talk Live and Sal the Agorist. Sal doesn't want to get it, sucked into Free Talk Live, and whatever, it's fine. We're having fun, and it's great to watch. He's got some advertisers. I'm helping him, bring on some more, trying to get maybe a little more professionality thrown in here and there, and I think the listeners really appreciate it.
Fantastic. I look forward to working with you guys. You and I have talked about a cash stamp sponsorship, so I do enjoy. I look forward to exploring that more with you. Just in closing, anything you want to say to our community specifically, and then any closing comments that you'd like to share? Yeah,
so this convention really has shown me that Bitcoin Cash isn't dead. I've been there since the beginning when Bitcoin Cash split off from Bitcoin. And, I used some of my Bitcoin Cash that I got to, pay off the loan on my house that I had taken out to buy Bitcoin in the first place. And so that was really cool. And of course, I had some Bitcoin Cash left over, and, it kind of went down, down, down. But if you owned Bitcoin Cash for the last year, if you bought in this time last year, you're really seeing some appreciation against BTC, and that's got to feel good. There's a lot of projects that are laying dead or groaning on the road to where we are today in the crypto sphere. And Bitcoin Cash isn't that. I'm seeing thriving. I'm seeing new projects put together, and I'm really quite impressed. I would ask you to follow and check out the show. It's at Sally Mayweather is the X account, and my X account is Mark Edge Show. So, follow us there. I'd love to have you follow and reach out.
Thanks so much for your time today, Mark. Really appreciate it. You got to give props where it's due. The man's been in the game for a long time, so really appreciate your time and insight. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Steve.
All right.